Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. It is scoring the players' time for Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 2. Our unbeaten streak is over. I feel like the Undertaker at WrestleMania, Lee Lawler. I have got Lee with us, so you can say on screen today. It has been a very, very busy and emotional day. We'll go through the Premier League scores in just a second, but as you all are aware, it's been a very, very difficult day for Newcastle United fans in particular. Christian Atsu, of course, who played for Newcastle for 5 years, from 2016 to 2021. Unfortunately, his body was found this morning and passed away. Well, of course, it was passed away when his body was found this morning. And again, I think everybody's probably said the same thing. Our hearts and our condolences go to the family of Christian Atsu, especially his wife and 3 children who still live in Newcastle. And I'd like to have thought that someone would have showed them the Newcastle fans sing Christian Atsu's song today, because it was sung for a long, long time today. So again, my thoughts and prayers, along with everybody at Newcastle Fans TV and the Newcastle United community, are with Christian Atsu's family at this very, very sad time. It's with a very heavy heart we do continue, and we're going to quickly go through the Premier League scores today before scoring the players, as we always do, just in case you've missed anything this afternoon. It was an 6-goal front at Villa Park. Lee, Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 4.
You're telling me some of the ones I don't even know.
I know. Emi Martinez with an own goal to make it 3-2 Arsenal. Jorginho shot it off the crossbar back off Emi Martinez's head, which was quite funny, to be honest with you. But yes, Arsenal back at top, on the top of the table. Brentford 1, Crystal Palace 1. Brentford scored in injury time last minute to make sure they will get a point today in that London derby. Another team in London aren't doing as well. Chelsea losing to bottom of the league Southampton. James Ward-Prowse with a free kick. So it's like a penalty, really, isn't it, for James Ward-Prowse? So yeah, Southampton beat Chelsea by 1-0. Fulham beat Brighton at the Amex by 1-0. Solomon with the goal. No Mitrovic in the squad. I don't know if he was injured or suspended, but he wasn't involved this afternoon. Lee, Chris Wood, Jack Colback and John Joe Shelby are taking on Manchester City. You're probably thinking 4-5, 6-0 Man City. 1-1, and Chris Wood scored with 5 minutes to go.
That would have been the fixture when we played Leeds.
Yeah.
It seems Park, Colback, Shelby in the middle, Wood on the opposite team in the Championship.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. But a point for Forest against Manchester City. So City have slipped up in the title race. Everton with a big, big win over Leeds United. Big game between those two sides at the bottom of the table. Everton winning with a goal 0. Seamus Coleman with the only goal there. And I believe the only other game was Wolves 0, Bournemouth 1. Ouch for Wolves, but Bournemouth, big, big win. I thought they played really well against Newcastle last week, but that is another story for another day. I believe that's all the results. If there's one I've missed out, let me know in the comments. But we're going to start with scoring the players of Newcastle 0, Liverpool 2. Lee, I'll let you start with Nick Pope.
Oh, I said to you off camera, you can have Nick Pope.
Yeah, I have mentioned every single game in the Prem as well before we move on.
Oh,
look, Nick Pope has not let Newcastle United down this season. But
we're scoring him tonight, not overall.
Scoring him tonight. And there might be a caveat. We've tried to work something out that we've seen online, but it's not confirmed yet. We've spoken to a couple of journalists outside. We bumped into a couple of journalists. And I don't know if Eddie Howe knows a certain stipulation. So, Lee, go through what you're going to score Nick Pope and then tell our lovely subscribers and viewers there might be a caveat to this cup final that he could still play potentially.
It's a really, really tough one, because if it was 0-0 and then the red card, you would probably say Nick Pope would cost us the game. But because we're already 2-0 down, yes, we played well in spells. Yes, it could have been different. We had 11 men. But that probably knocks them up a little bit because we're already 2-0 down. But overall, I have to score him low. And I hate doing it because he's being sensational, but he's got a straight red card and he's caused us issues going forward. I know it's about tonight.
He's conceded 2 goals as well.
I don't know if you can do too much about them. Again, I haven't seen them back because literally we haven't gone home yet. Did do sweep a keeper. There was a chance where he came out flying and cleared it. Gotta get him 2 out of 10.
I don't think Nick Pope's ever got a 2 out of 10
and that's
in any game of football.
Not because of his performance, it's because of the red card. And I think on that red card, he can kick it. And he's like 6'5", and that is
panicked, doesn't he?
It's so low, he doesn't need to head it. And I think he's just misjudged it. And you seen it was Salah, wasn't it? Running out, and then it cost. I think I'm not saying that he cost us the game, but he made life a lot more difficult.
Yeah, he certainly did. But look, at the minute he's out of the cup final. The caveat, though, that was seen online, and this question was asked to Eddie Howe in his press conference. We've had this confirmed by a couple of journalists that we bumped into. If Newcastle United decide to appeal Nick Pope's red card by Friday, I believe that they've got the chance to appeal it. And I'm sure the likes of Dan Ashworth, Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall, everybody is looking at this rule. If Newcastle were to appeal that red card, because if they do it by Friday, if they do it on the Friday, they've then got to wait until an appeal can be looked at, which would the earliest time would be Monday. If Newcastle are unsuccessful, which they will definitely be unsuccessful, Nick Pope would then miss 2 Premier League matches against Manchester City at the Etihad and Wolves at St James's Park. If that is the case, it is an absolute no-brainer to do that, Lee Lawler.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's like for a one-off cup game, you want your best 11. You probably do the same with resting players. Like Eddie Howe took a lot of the players off today. I generally feel he's doing it because he's thinking about the cup final. Game's lost, so he's thinking about taking Trippier off, taking off Wilson, bringing on Wilson. Sorry, taking off Isak and Joe Linton. So I think you've got to look at everything in your toolbook, and it sounds desperation because it is.
Is it shithousery?
It is, and it's desperate. It is desperation. I'll say it. We are shit ourselves, and we are desperate because it's not where it's a slight drop off. It's a massive drop off. It's not. You're not replacing Joe Willock with Sean Longstaff, or you're not replacing Dan Burn with Matty Target or Isak with Wilson. You're replacing basically the goalkeeper of the season so far, in my eyes, with a keeper who hasn't played for 2 years. That is a massive worry and a concern. The drop of levels. Yes, Karius has got experience if he is the one that's chosen, which is likely. But that's a huge drop off, and I think it's confidence in the back four.
I wonder what Carl Darlow's thinking right now. Well,
no doubt he like I said to you off the camera before, Carl Darlow will come back and play one cup final and never play again for Newcastle. I think he would take that. Well, not so much never play for Newcastle. I think not play again this season. I think he would take that because it's a cup final.
Get your thoughts on who should be playing in goal for Newcastle in that cup final. Let us know. Of course, Martin Dubravka, who came on, who we'll mention later on, he can't play. Ironically, if Manchester United win, he gets a winner's medal. Utterly bonkers.
It is the bonkers, the goalkeeping situation.
Literally, listen to the last word about this goalkeeping situation. It is honestly ridiculous.
Because what happens if Karius isn't fit?
Who knows?
Because then you've got either Gillespie or Jude Smith.
See what happens.
Put Dan Burn in goal.
Yeah, exactly. Talk about Dan Burn. We'll start with Dan Burn. I've got Dan Burn. I thought Mo Salah certainly had the pace in him. I don't think he played horrifically, Dan Burn, but Newcastle conceded 2. Did he really have any impact?
He was a lot more forward than what he normally is. That's because we're trailing.
Yeah, probably. And plus he had a bit more of a license, I suppose, because Liverpool dictated the pace of the game, really, so he could do what he wanted to an extent. I'll go 5 out of 10 for Dan Burn this afternoon. Not that the fact they played horrendous. I just think the defence got ripped apart in other places, and as a collective, that just didn't look as strong as they have done. But then again, it's been one of those games.
I'll go on record before we mention the other 3 players. I bet he's the highest scoring defender.
Either yes or joint in my head.
It won't be. I think every other defender will be either lower than that.
Possibly.
But then again, I remember Dan Burn cleared off the line as well.
Yeah, he did
in the dying seconds.
Yes, I did. Yes, that's a good point. Yes.
It could have been 3-0.
Actually, was it him that hit the
No, it was Dan
header?
Burn.
Was it him that had the header that hit the crossbar?
I think it was. He was one of them.
Confirm that with us again. I do apologise for not that we haven't seen the highlights, but with everything that you do after a game, it's just almost impossible.
It's a video itself of we showed you what goes on.
Yeah, exactly. I'll move on to Sven Botman, and I thought he was poor today. I think it was moments where he was good in spells.
Have you not noticed it's starting to slowly creep in? Not like dramatically, but when he was in for the first 20 games, he was nothing wrong. But now it's a slight thing where it's a misplaced pass. It might only happen once in the game, but it's starting to slowly creep in.
He had that moment against Crystal Palace, But I think today
5 is harsh, everyone's saying, but
possibly might be. But tell me what did he do brilliantly today? Then tell us in the comments, what did he do brilliantly?
I do agree with you. I don't think Salah rinsed him. Yes, Salah got an assist.
Salah had his moments. Had his moments.
I thought Salah was quite poor actually.
He almost got Almiron sent off, and then he won a penalty and got a fantastic assist for the second goal.
Didn't Almiron got booked for being offside?
No, he got booked for fouling Salah.
Oh, someone got booked for offside.
Sven Botman anyway. I don't think this is a controversial statement to say this is one of his poorest performances in Newcastle ship. But then again, you remind yourself how good he has been. Do you think it was just an off day for the defence in general, and he was just one of those players that just didn't have his best performances in a black and white shirt?
Yeah, again, I mentioned little things are creeping in where there's a couple of misplaced passes. I don't think he's the worst centre-back mind. But there might be some question for that first goal that he might have some part in it. Probably Fabian Schär more so. But look, I think he's a talent. He's still young. He's allowed. I mean, this is probably his first bad game.
No, that's what I mean. I think because of the higher standards, we can probably say the same thing about his partner in crime, Fabian Schär. But
I've gone 4.
You've gone 4.
I think Dan Burn had a better game.
I don't think Dan Burn was. I probably agree with that. I would probably say Botman was one mark worse than Burn today. I was going to say 4 for Schär. And I will go 4 for Schär. I don't think he was a 3 out of 10 performance. Look, it was his first defeat for Newcastle this season, and we're in the middle of February.
Yeah, he took that record away, didn't he?
And we're in the middle of February.
And we still haven't won without Bruno in it.
Yeah, and that is a concern which we'll talk about in a second. But in terms of Fabian Schär's performance,
he's a fault. He's partially at fault for the first goal.
He is partially at fault of the first goal from that pass. And look, it's a great finish from Nunes. You would expect £100 million signing the score. Also,
them little clip side, but they weren't coming off today.
No, there was 1 or 2 in the first half which got to Saint-Maximin, especially in the first 10-15 minutes before Liverpool scored the first. I just think there was a couple of off passes. I just thought his positioning in general at times was just poor. But again, when the game stretched as it was very, very difficult for Newcastle. But yeah, I'll go 4. I don't think he was a 3 out of 10 performance for Fabian Schär. I think that's almost like a proper howler. I don't think it was a proper howler because the fact Liverpool just could dictate the pace at their own game. Kieran Trippier's at right back.
Oh, you've given me him, haven't you?
Do you know? It's a funny one, Kieran Trippier, because
I think he's the worst of the back 4
today.
Yeah, I think he's the worst.
I don't think he's. I thought
this is probably his poorest game.
Probably, but I don't think
he's got to look at both the goals. And you think he has to have a massive part in both of them.
Why in the second one?
Especially the first one, because it's split between him and Shares and that lob ball.
But I don't see where he's at fault for the second one.
I haven't seen it back, but if I remember, it was Gakpo behind him, comes behind him. I might be wrong. That again, it's 9:30 at night, and we haven't seen any. We do loads of videos outside the ground and meet people and what have you. Trippier he's worse than the other back 4. The other 3 in the back 4. He has to be. Going forward, there wasn't as many. There was 1 in the first half. There wasn't as many.
A couple of good crosses from set players. Yeah. They got obviously the header that hit the crossbar in the first half.
I got 3 out of 10.
I think that's harsh.
I think. Right.
I'd say 3 out of 10's harsh. I was thinking the back 4 weren't going to get more than 5s today, but
I think 3 out of 10. This is his worst performance in the black and white shirt.
Get your comments in if you agree with him.
And I've said this before, not so much today, but them little, it's 1 or 2 from Botman, Schär, and Trippier passes are just not going to it was 10 passes out of 10. I know I'm a perfectionist.
Look, I think there's a question that I'll ask you in regards to that later on, because I think it's everybody.
Yeah,
it's not just the players. I think it's literally everybody in the city of Newcastle.
There's more doing it than others in the team.
Exactly. Let's move into the midfield. Felt sorry for the midfield today because I don't think they really did much wrong. I don't think they were outstanding by any stretch of the imagination, but the midfield itself. What am I going to have? I'll have Joe Linton. Moments of brilliance, as we normally see with Joe Linton, in terms of he's so good with the ball at his feet. It's very, very rarely someone really outmuscles him for out the ball.
I think he's the best of the three.
The conundrum with Joe Linton for me for next week, where's he play Joe Linton? Because he plays next week. He starts for me next week. Surely he has to be in midfield, but I have this feeling, even though Saint-Maximin played well tonight.
It depends on Willock's fitness.
It does, doesn't it? It massively depends. And if Willock's 80% fit, I think he starts because I think he's played a majority of the games. I do agree. I thought Joe Willock was probably the best in midfield today. Good battle, especially with Fabinho. I've seen that. Obviously, 2 Brazilian teammates as well.
Soon to be teammates.
Well, soon to be, hopefully. I would torn between a 6 and a 7. I'll go 6.5 because I am torn. I'm generally torn between a 6 and a 7. Has to start next week. Love the passion, even though he didn't want to come off. But I think Eddie Howe made the right decision in taking him off, even though he thought he was okay. Because to be honest with you, with 15, 20 minutes to go, I know if Callum Wilson scores, maybe you can. There's an argument Newcastle could nick it potentially, nick a point if they can defend and then maybe get a set piece. But no, I'll go 6.5. But he starts next week. Tell me in the comments where does he start, because I want him to play midfield. But I generally don't think Eddie Howe knows where he's going to play him next week, but he does play him. Sean Longstaff. I thought Sean was fine, but
I don't think you had a bad as game as the defence. Again, misplaced passes a lot more today than he has in the previous games. But the opposition, yes, Liverpool are not the side, and there's a few people think that they're coming back, which they probably will do. But I don't think he was as good as Joe Linton. I'm going to go more 5. I think that's fair for Sean.
There was a real chance that mark could have been a lot lower in the first half, and this is where Miggy takes one for the team, because when Liverpool cleared the set piece, Sean has a chance to try and control it, and he miscontrols it, and Salah's through with Gakpo coming towards him, and it was like 3v2 at one point, and Newcastle got away with a free kick on the edge of the box. So,
I'll go 5.
Yeah, I think I'm not massively disagreeing with that. I think it's just one of those games where with the situation where it was.
And there's a lot of running. You got to think we're down to 10 men. And we're played really, it's 3 in midfield, really. Because when the red card came, and I will talk about ESM, he's moved further forward. So we had to tweak it a little bit, and really we only had 3 in midfield. We didn't really play with proper wingers. Even Miggy was tucked in a little bit. So
he had to, though, didn't he?
Yeah, I'll go 5. Look, I think with some nice touches, a lot more calmer around his own box as well, but misplaced passes, a lot of running. So 5, I think that's fair.
Elliot Anderson was the surprise name for Newcastle in terms of the midfield, but wasn't really a surprising number when he got substituted because of Nick Pope sending off, and it was just so unfortunate. I think he knew himself. I was looking at it, I'm thinking, I think it's going to probably be Elliot Anderson, but I think it was either going to be Elliot Anderson or possibly Miggy, but again, I think that Eddie Howe made the right decision.
A huge call to play him.
It was a huge call. I don't think he did.
There was a bit on the left hand side.
I don't think he did bad.
Where, that's what he did at Bristol Rovers.
Yeah.
He got the ball. He went past 2 players and was brought down. I was like, I want to see more of that. Why are you scared to express yourself? Has he been told not to in previous games? And now he's only getting 5-10 minutes. But have a look at the last word. I do agree, Fordy. I think he's training with better players, but he should be out on loan.
I think
it's not helping his development.
I think it's an interesting debate in regards to Allan. We didn't really have this debate properly on the last word, but for me, I don't blame Eddie Howe doing what he did today. Elliot Anderson playing in midfield was not the reason why Newcastle went 2-0 down today. That was the defence, and maybe a bit of quality in particular for Mo Salah for the second goal. I don't know what you think of the scores, by the way. I don't know if it's non-applicable because he had to get.
Well, he still played half an hour, didn't he? So
I don't even think he didn't even play.
I don't think it was any worse than Sean.
Just go middle. If you're going to mark him, just go 5 out of 10. Not in a nasty way. I just think, I think it's just so unfortunate in the situation, because I think I'd love to have seen him get 60, 70 minutes, regardless of what happened today. Just for his own development, he needed 60, 70 minutes today, and then you bring on a Richie or whoever you want to bring on in the midfield if you have to do that. But I think the plan was to give Elliot Anderson as long as physically possible, because he probably isn't going to start next week.
Then probably that was probably the plan, bring Gordon on for him.
Yeah.
later on, but that didn't happen.
No, it didn't. But again, I think you're right. He should have gone out on loan, not because he doesn't deserve to be there. There's an argument he should deserve to be there on talent alone, but he isn't going to get a run of games at Newcastle. He needs a run of games. I'm amazed, like a club like a Middlesbrough or.
But then again, we got rid of Shelby, so he has to stick around.
Yeah, well, exactly. Moving forward, it's the three in terms of attacking players have actually really excited me before the game. But I'm going to give you Allan Saint-Maximin, Lee.
Oh, good. You give us a good.
Be nice. He needed a performance like that, where you go, remember what I can do. Remember how useful I can be. Just a shame he just didn't get an assist or a goal. Obviously, Alisson's made a worldly save in the first half, putting a tip on at the crossbar. But he was a nuisance today. Yeah,
Trent. It's the same with Trent. He cannot defend. I think that was a good battle because I bet when that went down to 10 men, he's probably thinking, phew. Because then Maxi was moving to the right, he was coming over the left. He had a little bit of a free roll. And not that we played Bruce ball, but it kind of reminded me, it was like, go on, Maxi, you go and do it. And that's how it kind of reminded me going back to Bruce, like, Maxi, you go and do anything, but he was on song tonight. He didn't get the goal, didn't get an assist. But really, if you look at all the attacking threats, he was the only threat. For me, he's man of the match.
Did he do everything bar score or assist?
I think Liverpool were scared of him, really scared of him. And he needed a performance to put in the day and think, you know what, I want to start for you in the cup final. Give you a little bit of a headache because with squad depth off the bench is very, very weak. So for me, he starts the cup final.
He starts?
He starts the cup final for me.
Would you start him, would you?
Yeah, because of the performance today. I think he deserves it. And I'll score him 8 out of 10. I think he's man of the match.
Does Eddie Howe start him?
Yes, I think he will. I think Willock will be benched because of his fitness. And then that's an option off the bench later. Sean comes off or whoever comes off, Maxi comes off. At least that's a better option off the bench. And you got Joe Willock. And then the strikers, you had the same option. I think Wilson will start and that'll be changed later for Isak, unless we're getting beat.
Interesting to see, because I think if Aaron Wan-Bissaka starts to Manchester United in the cup final, ASM doesn't beat him many times. I think it's Diogo Dalot.
But then again, he comes in, didn't he? He might come in like inverted winger. But I think it's good to see that because it felt like when we did the video, the last word a couple of weeks ago, it felt like it was a bit of a pile-on on him. A little bit from all four of us, like we're criticising, come on, he's better than that. People were saying on the video, get rid of him. I wasn't one of them. Believe in him. I said he needs a run of games. Wasn't great last. No, he's got better each game. The last 3 started. Bournemouth, he was a bit better. And today he's man of the match. And then, cup final. Is he disciplined to do the work behind? Because he's probably going to have that. You can't leave Dan Burn exposed. So, but I would take that risk. It's a cup final.
I honestly don't know what to do because I look at that performance today and think you can do that. You've got that performance in you.
But he had a more of a free roll. Is that not an option? Because Fordy was saying that in the last word. No, he had a bit of a free roll. You didn't have to worry about too much that way. And he was left. He was right.
But let's be honest.
But do you not think Howe got the best out of, not the best out of him, but that's his best threat with Maxi instead of being stuck on the left? Because a couple of weeks ago we were laughing saying, and there's a stat, he made the most tackles defensively. And I guess that shows you the work that he's done in them, but going forward, he offered nothing in that West Ham game. Bournemouth, he was a bit brighter. And then today, he had that free roll. And the red card probably helped his performance better. Although I think he started off really well. I think a red card gave him that freedom to not worry about what's behind him.
Carry talk because I'm going to sneeze.
He's going to sneeze. But yeah, I'll have a look what he's saying in the comments as well. Devon's gone to say Miguel and Wilson both should have scored the chances today. Jack's gone to say we will go to the Etihad, have a defensive game plan similar to the Arsenal game. Atsu's wife, yeah, we're seeing that in the kids with the game. That was really nice. So was Rafa as well. Maxi had me hard racing tonight, yeah. Trippier played them both on side for the goals. So Maxi was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah, look, I think Maxi's definitely up there. If not, I think he just about shaded it for man of the match for me today. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying in regards to him. I just think it's a massive decision because he is a game changer. He's a match winner. But I just have a niggling feeling that I don't think Eddie Howe will risk playing in a final if he has everybody available. That is just my personal opinion. I don't know if it's a fact. Would I start him? I probably would start him, but I think it's such a tight call. And if you're Eddie Howe, maybe if the fans, it's probably a bit more easier.
He's a great option I know it's in hindsight, but if we're drawing the game and you got extra time looming, it's a great option off the bench. But if it goes to extra time, I think he'll be subbed off.
Yeah, so do I. I'd start him. I'll start him, but we'll see what happens anyway. Miguel Almiron for me. Did have a chance in the first half where he had a right foot shot which went wide. Obviously had to move back into a deeper role, midfield role, so we didn't see the best of him in that sense because he had to do a disciplined job. I'll go 6.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, just about fair.
Didn't really have an impact.
He didn't.
I think we didn't really test Robertson that much, but then again, we're down to 10 men.
I think he did have to beat them once, but it's just one of those games where you just, unfortunately, because of the situation, you're not going to get the best of Miguel Almiron in that sense. But good to see him get back on the goal scoring charts last week. 10 goals for the season. Wouldn't mind a couple more next weekend. But he's a showing to start, and I still think he'll fancy it. I think that it's a big game. I just got a feeling Miggy might do something next week. But look, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Miguel Almiron. Certainly not a game that I don't think he played horrendous. I just think it was just one of those outings that on another day he could have had a chance to score in the first half when Maxi plays him through. If he has a better first touch, you'd like to think he gets it past Alisson because of the scoring form he has been in this season. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for Miguel Almiron. Alexander Isak, I thought he was a breath of fresh air. I really, really did. I thought he was brilliant in certain areas. Only thing I would say, I think he's got to put a couple of these chances at least on target, make Alisson work, because especially one in the second half where he should have. I think it was early on in the second half where Maxi finds him. He's got to put on target.
Yes, I'll score my 7. I'll start with. I think he's up there with Joe Linton as joint second best. I like the link up because Maxi's talked about it on a couple of videos already. That he likes to play with Alex in training, and you can see there's a bit of. I wouldn't say similar, but Alex is quite pacey, slinky, got a bit of trick about him. You can see those kind of like flair players can collaborate, and I think that's something that we could look at in the future. I think those could work together. I think Maxi works all right with Wilson as well, but I think the other two, that is a partnership that could blossom. But yeah, he was moving around, he was stretching the defence. He's up against Van Dijk, obviously world-class defender.
I think he did well against Van Dijk and Gomez today.
Yeah, I think he did all right. He just needs a goal, and it might be that he starts, and I think he will be benched next week. But that's a great option, and we are limited. I know because we're heads on the cup final. It is now, isn't it? We are limited. That do you know what? Because our squad depth is that low, you might bring him on out wide.
Does he
start? He can't play Gordon.
Would you start him next week?
No,
you wouldn't.
Who gives you? If there's a cross comes in, you fancy Wilson over Isak for me. I think Isak is more capable of doing something out of the blue, but if there's a cross, I want Wilson there.
I think Isak stretches Manchester United's defence. I think that's the only thing I would say.
You go daft and play 2 of them.
That would be fascinating.
One in the 10, and that solves the midfield problem. Because he did that when we were, what game was it?
Fulham,
and then it worked. So he's playing in the 10. Again, he's going to have to ask to go that way. And will Isak do that? But 7, I think it's a steady performance, but I think he's benched next week.
We'll see. We will see. How many sleeps is it? 7 sleeps, 8 sleeps?
Yes, it's Saturday. I know it's been a long day, I know.
It's such a long day. That's for another episode, another video rather. But yes, we've gone through all the 11, I should add.
Dubravka was the first one, which sounds weird.
I was like, she has an extra player somewhere. Yeah, Dubravka made some good saves, particularly one from Nunes when he cuts in on the right-hand side. Thought he was fine. Didn't concede.
Great one, second half as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't concede either. Go 6 out of 10 for Dubravka.
Yeah, there was a bit where you dropped the ball.
First header as well. I was like, don't. You
did it in the second half as well,
Yeah, 6 out of 10 for Dubravka. Made a couple of good saves. Then there was a flurry of substitutions. 3 substitutions.
Yeah, Murphy,
Gordon, and
Wilson.
On. There you go, Murphy, Gordon, Wilson. I'll give you. I haven't really heard you talk about Anthony Gordon too much. So,
who?
Anthony Gordon.
Flash. Oh, have I got his name written down? Dun, dun.
Well, I'll talk about Anthony Gordon as while he sorts that out.
I'm sure I do somewhere.
The Scouser in our team. We played. Obviously, he's a blue, not a red. I do have him written down. I thought he was going to start today, I thought he had a couple of times where I remember he was running, I think, with Milner. Yeah, to try and get past Milner.
Oh, Milner stopped him.
And Milner stopped it. I was like, what's happening here? But he did. There was little flashes, no pun intended, that he showed that he has got something in him. But I still think it's still very, very early days for Anthony Gordon. Obviously, there's that little almost an assist for Wilson, and if he put it away. But what did you make of Anthony Gordon's performance today?
I didn't think he was can 5. I don't think he really impacted the game, to be all honesty. And it's tough because you're against 10 men, aren't you? That's on camera that you've missed that, Johnny. Could have come into my camera that. I thought you were going to get up and put it in the bin. He is. You'll see. This is what happens here. Oh, look, Johnny's in 2 cameras. I think he wasn't so much flash Gordon today. He's pace. He's skinny lad. He's got lots of pace, but 10 men, you know what I mean? It's difficult. And yeah, you talk about that chance where he's 1-on-1 with Milner. Milner just stretches his leg out and stops him. But yeah, he could have had an assist, but yeah, 5. I don't think it was out spectacular.
I'm going to go 5 for Wilson, but he's got to score. Look,
that chance.
He's got to score that chance for me. Callum Wilson at his peak scores.
Probably knock him down a peg for not scoring it.
That's why I'm knocking him down a peg for 5. I thought, to be fair, 5, 4, whatever, but I'll go 5 out of 10. That's the chance you want Callum Wilson to have. And Gordon did the right thing, waited, played the pass at the right time. Got to score.
You see that, right? You think about where 10 men, I'll come on to Eddie Howe in a minute, Alisson's had to make 4 or 5 saves.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think
against 10 men.
I don't think it's
so it's not all, yes, we feel negatives. I think it's because we're more thinking about the Pope situation. But you know what? If we play like that most weeks, today was a better performance than Bournemouth last week in West Ham.
It was bad moments, but an okay performance.
It was better.
Yeah, it was a better performance. But yeah, one of those things, I'm afraid, one of those things we'll have to deal with. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for Callum Wilson. That will be one of the arguments whether he starts or whether Isak starts. But I do think Callum Wilson gets the nod if it's between the pair of them. But I kind of agree with Lee. I think Wilson probably just gets the edge because I think if you give Wilson 60, 65 minutes and it's either Newcastle winning or drawing, you bring Isak on, fresh legs. Man United have played a billion games. You never know. But we'll see what happens next week. Jacob Murphy playing right back. Discuss.
Well, I wasn't Manquillo. I think that's just saving Trippier.
Yeah, I don't.
Was he booked?
I don't know, but
regardless
if he was, I don't disagree with the substitution at all.
Yeah, he did have a great game, but you've got to ask yourself the question. Manquillo's sitting there thinking, why am I not being picked? And Murphy has played there for England in the 21s. He's played right wing back for us as well. Bit of a strange one. It was Murphy at right back. Maybe he's thinking, do you know what? I need someone direct to go forward. But didn't really impact. I didn't think he had a poor game because Liverpool were cutting us up through the middle late on that second half. But I'll score him a 5. I didn't have a poor game. He didn't have enough influence on it.
There was one moment that I was getting so annoyed. And I was thinking, he had a chance to cross it on his right foot and he did cross it and it hit the side net. And I'm thinking, I said, that's peak Jacob Murphy. That's like when Rafa Benitez had Jacob Murphy. And I remember he crosses after cross after cross. It was going out of play. I'm thinking, I was getting so wound up. But yeah, I don't think he'll be playing back next week.
He'll be first or second choice sub though next week.
I don't mind if it's running down the clock and Newcastle with a couple of goals up. I don't mind he can come on if he wants. But we'll see what happens with that. What did you rate him? Sorry,
a 5.
Was there anybody?
Matt Ritchie.
Yeah, Matt Ritchie. Yeah, good to see Matt Ritchie play actually.
Yeah, he's had
great
door.
cross for towards the back post, which Liverpool just dealt with. But I think if Wilson was about a second earlier, clicking onto that sort of kind of cross, he might have got a goal because the cross was that good. But Ritchie was fine, absolutely fine. 5 out of 10.
Great penalty taker for one that if you want to bring on, if it goes
all the way.
Yeah, he's a great shout for.
He'd be on the bench. He'd definitely be on the bench.
It'd be a great shout if we need someone for a penalty taker.
I think Ritchie's one of the only few players I know is probably like a League 2 playoff or a JPT. I think he has played a final at Wembley.
I think, I know we're going off topic. If you look at like penalty shootouts, you think Fabian Schär, Kieran Trippier, Isak or Wilson, one of the two. And then Matt Ritchie as well. Joe Linton's taking 1 or 2 for us in lockdown.
Good penalty taker.
So there's a few. So there's just be confident if it goes that all the way. Just
depends on the goalkeeper.
I know. That's funny. I was trying to find some positives. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 for Matt Ritchie for me. I don't know if you've got that on screen.
I put it on.
Brilliant. Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe. Did he get the team selection right?
We don't know, because I think the red card changed the whole. I don't think Elliot Anderson's to blame for any of the goals, because he's the one that was started and sacrificed. I think the goals is just shit defending. There's just Trippier, Shea. I mean, how many times have I said that this season? None. Botman maybe to a little bit extent, but they're errors, and you can't really. And it's not like they give the ball away, or it's simple like marking. They're not communicating, but you can't really point the finger there. The red card just didn't help. In all honesty, I thought that was it. That's game over. We're going to park the bus and just take the defeat. But credit to Eddie Howe for pushing and pushing and pushing. And all honesty, if a neutral watched that and didn't know there was a red card, you would think there hasn't been a red card in this game. And I think that's how well the lads have played. So credit they played for the badge of the night, which is all what we ask. It's just frustrating how the way it went, because we played like basically an hour with 10 men. So for that, we got beat. But some stuff were taken out of his hands. So I score my 6.
You've gone 6.
I've gone 6.
I would have gone 5. I don't get why he hasn't started Anthony Gordon today. Not that Elliot Anderson was the wrong decision. Anthony Gordon's
we'll
not.
Go 5.5 then.
Anthony Gordon's not playing next week because he's cup tied. Why are you not playing him in a game of this magnitude for him personally? Not the fact that it's Newcastle versus Liverpool. He's an Everton fan, boyhood Evertonian, boyhood Scouser, would want to get one over Liverpool. I just think this game was ready-made for him.
If Gordon plays, I don't think Maximin has as good as a game as he did.
Possibly. I think it's a really, really fascinating one. I do agree with you, though, on the point that I think when we went down to 10 men, it didn't look like massively we were down to 10 men. Liverpool had a lot of possession, but it just seemed like It did in
the dying second, the dying 5 minutes.
It sounded like it was a bit like a Bruce versus Liverpool performance in the sense of just park the bus.
Give it to
Maxi and hope for the best. But Newcastle had chances.
What did I say a few minutes ago? Alisson had 4 or 5 saves to make.
Yeah, it's just those little moments, and look, we're not there yet. We're not when one of this phase, if you like, in terms of a brand new season or a brand new football club. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Big decision. It's probably the biggest game in Eddie Howe's managerial career next week, for the good reasons, not the bad reasons, which you normally associate with Newcastle managers when they have big games. In terms of the top 4, it's not a disaster. Yes, it's a defeat, but it's not a disaster. But I think this cup final has now came at the right time. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody can't be there, obviously. Everyone wants to be there to watch it. In a weird way, in terms of the Premier League side of things, Lee, at least regardless of what happens next week, that bit's over. And then we can refocus on Premier League.
We're going into the final. Yeah, stay tuned with the channel because we've tons and tons of videos starting from Monday with the cup final. It's been hanging on us as fans. Look, the players will have a future eye on it, because especially the likes of Dan Burn, Sean Longstaff, they'll know what's going on social media. They'll see the clips and everything like that. And it's kind of the last 3 fixtures have stuttered and they've been in the way a little bit. And it could hit us later on the season where we don't make top 4. But you know what? Again, rephrase is what won 18th of February. We're sitting in 4th in a cup final. We're going to be beaten twice all season.
Of the same team.
The last team to do us last season was Liverpool again. Bogey team, 3 defeats.
I don't think, and I'm saying this again, I don't think Liverpool will get 6 points off Newcastle next season if Bruno plays.
Yeah, ifs and bits and maybes in it. But
ifs and bits and maybes.
I can't expect. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. But I think that Champions League is now wide open. It was at one point just Arsenal. Then Manchester City crept a little. I know Man City got beat today. Then it was Man United, us, Spurs. I think Man United will go clear. And I think it's between us, Spurs, and Liverpool. Liverpool win their game in hand. They're right in it. And for me, if they win that game in hand against Chelsea, Liverpool are the favourites.
They are. I'd even put Liverpool favourites now, because if they win the game in hand within 3 points in Newcastle, and they've got a bit of momentum.
You say it's a good time. I think it's a bad time. I think it's a good time to focus now on the final. I don't want a run of what's it, 1 win in 8 or
Yeah,
something?
we haven't won in the league since Leicester on Boxing Day.
I mean, that feels like it ages ago.
Oh no, sorry, Fulham. I tell lie.
Yeah,
Fulham. But yeah, I get that. But I do think this cup final's come at the right time. Just
Carl's in the live chat. Carl, you're happy, you're nice and home, and you're warm home.
Yeah.
Carl will be in the last word.
Bottled it. He did.
No, he was the cameraman.
Bottled it. Just to reiterate, because I've just had a couple of my friends text about what do you mean? Friends texting about why can Nick Pope potentially play in this final? Have you what's the situation? And I think it was Dan Snell, David Office. You've been texting me in the last few minutes about this. Right. For people that have missed it, it might be complete utter rubbish, but there is a small chance, potentially, if Newcastle appeal the red card for Nick Pope on Friday, so technically 2 days before the game, because the FA would have to review it the Monday, essentially, he will be able to play that cup final because he's not guilty. If that makes sense.
It's weird how it does it because it's like
weird. I don't know if it's 100% true, but someone put on this conspiracy theory, and I don't think it's a completely right or wrong. But if I'm
even the journals that we've bumped into some
100%
Premier League production journalists, Sky journalists, just before speaking to them, and even them are unsure.
They're unsure as well. But I'll tell you what everybody will be doing tomorrow, even tonight. Knowing Eddie Howe, probably haven't looked tonight. He'll be looking at the rule book and he'll be looking at everything and going X, Y, and Z. Because if that's the case, if Newcastle United appeal the red card on Friday.
Do you know why we're so worried? It's because we don't have the squad depth.
Yeah, we don't have the squad depth.
Because we're not there as a Man United yet. Yeah. Or
even a Chelsea to an extent. Like Chelsea have got so many different players in so many different positions.
I mean, I'll take probably the 6 unregistered players.
So did I.
Stick them on the bench.
If Newcastle appeal the red card, this could be complete rubbish because I don't know the rule book. I want the rule book in front of me. If Nick Pope loses that appeal, which he will, let's be honest, he will miss 2 Premier League games rather than 1. I don't mind Martin Dubravka playing against Manchester City at the Etihad and then playing Wolves at St James, even though he hasn't got the best record against Wolves because he normally
Johnny, I'll go on goal for the Premier League games if it means
play the final.
If it means Nick Pope and we win the cup.
I think we might have to do a separate video on this goalkeeping situation or this goalkeeping crisis.
It's just a conundrum, isn't it?
It's a massive goalkeeping conundrum, but we will see what happens. Allan, Saint-Maximin has got our man of the match today.
I want to actually, just before we go on there, so who's the sub-keeper?
Well, I think it's going to be Mark Gillespie then, isn't it?
Well, have to be, won't it? Or
if Nick Pope can't play, which I'm 99% sure he won't play, but there is that theory that I'm talking about. Norris Carrier starts and Mark Gillespie's on the bench. Mental.
We'll end it there.
Well, actually, no, I did have one question for us. We were walking up, and it's about Nick Pope.
Oh, you did,
I did.
Right.
Can you remember what I asked you?
There was a stipulation I threw back at you, though.
You did, but we'll go with the question.
People can answer this in the comments.
Yeah, answer this one because it's a good question.
Oh, you like it when that happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. Bruno obviously is going to be back for the final. He'll start. We all know that. Who is a bigger miss if one can only be available, or who would you rather not have, Bruno or Nick Pope?
Because of the goalkeeping crisis, it has to be Nick Pope that you'll miss most. If it was Darlow, I would say it was Bruno.
If you could only have one of those 2 players playing, who would you rather have playing in your team? Under the circumstances right now.
I could have Darlow in the back. If I have called Darlow there.
As much as Nick Pope is a massive, massive miss, and he is, Bruno's too much of a miss.
But you're dropping from Pope to Karius.
For a
player who hasn't played for 2 years.
For 1 game.
Our biggest game in 24 years.
More than that.
Since the FA Cup 99. But then Bruno for Willock.
We've not won a game.
Bruno for Willock isn't as bad as Pope to Karius, I don't think.
Is Bruno capable of winning you the game?
Yes, but the thing is that we are lacking is creativity massively because we're not scoring. When was the last time we scored 2 to 3 goals in the league? Leicester won it. So we're struggling to score goals. There's a lot of nils. I know it's nil-nils and a lot of 1-1s and stuff like that. Today is another nil. I would say Pope to Karius is a bigger drop than Bruno to Willock.
But is Bruno better?
If we want goals, it's Bruno. But then again,
what do we need? What are we lacking?
But then again, what's won us games recently? The last 2 months is clean sheets. It's shite, isn't it? The Pope drop is too. It's just that's the worrying, and I think yes, it's a worry tonight, but I think we've got to enjoy the week and try not to worry about that as much.
No one will be talking about this in Trafalgar when we get to Trafalgar Square on Saturday, because we'll know by then what the situation is, and we'll know who's pretty much starting in goal.
Fingers crossed.
God knows, probably going to be Loris Karius, I think, but yeah.
Stick Jude Smith in.
Exactly.
Hey, Jude.
Newcastle are still 4th in the Premier League. Might not be for much longer because Spurs play West Ham tomorrow, but we'd love West Ham to win. Come on, you Irons.
Always love the Cockneys.
Glad you finished that sentence off. Because I'm going to start another rumour again. Anyway, on that note, I think we'll wrap things up. Yeah, Allan Saint-Maximin gets the Newcastle Fans TV man of the match for today's defeat against Liverpool. Just a small matter of a game against Manchester United. Hope to see you there down Wembley Way. The Geordie boys are taking over Trafalgar Square, and we might be taking over Wembley as well. From me and Lee, we'll see you all very soon.
Stay tuned for the last word later, everyone.